Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
So let's start this very meaningful conference with a very insightful keynote presentation by Dr. Suresh A. Shan, Head Innovation and Future Technology, BITS Mahindra and Mahindra Financial Services Limited. Over to you, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thanks for this opportunity with you all today, and great to see our known peers. And the topic which comes part of the secure and security matters a lot when it comes to cyber security in terms of BFSI, the virtual conclave, where these are the right team, which you can say it's like not distributed with multiple experiences and a diversified team where they can talk about almost all the topics which is used to part of the cyber security. And when it comes to in terms of how we can do things in terms of innovating and distributing similar things, how cyber security we can use part of internal and external, and the kind of dynamic changes which is happening part of the market. And panelists all are actually more into innovated and a distributed model, even if it's a partner or CIOs or CISOs or specific to cyber security, we can see them worked on both the sides. So some of the main storage solution when we debated, like people talk like our employee, and they give contributions with it matters a lot when it comes to deployment and trying to do it same way. When you talk about Mr. Prasanna Lower, recently the kind of blockchain or anything which comes part of the technology and which comes part of the secured environment, they have done a lot more, and they have given enough in terms of how they can try to generate and try to fix such things on that. When it comes to Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, again, the kind of determination and commitment part of the cyber security and IT security, he has done enormous work, and he has created enough in terms of building more concepts and the patterns which they try to use it. And specifically when you talk about Mr. Sudhin, he keeps things very simple, even though you call it as security, you call it as innovation or disruption, but he would like to be more in terms of approving the better things. So even you can see his social media vibes, which will have more of an approval only. So he enjoys giving approval where he ensures the information part of it, and creates more in terms of diversified innovation distributed across. So it's a diversified panel, and people can give more inputs, and people are well versed with the current and the kind of topics what we are talking about. I'll get to start with Mr. Sanjay Agarwal in terms of how cyber security or IT security has become very important function for enterprises. What are the top priorities for CISO or enterprise security experts as of today?
Uh, Thanks and good afternoon, everyone. I'm really honored to be a part of this panel where we have some of the top industry experts here. In fact, it's not uncommon to hear cyber crimes these days. This pandemic particularly has accelerated these attacks on enterprises. Some of the common ones that we hear are something like account-centric frauds, identity thefts, ransomware, phishing, even data theft challenges internally within the organizations are being heard of. And that is the reason why today enterprises are focusing a lot on cybersecurity. What they are trying to do is strengthen the technology and IT infrastructure, enhance the processes, and adopt best global practices to safeguard the important data, the data that is critical applications, the devices that use in banks, for example, ATMs, etc., networks, and the entire IT infrastructure. During my conversations with CIOs and CISOs, I found that very few of them are ahead of the curve, and they are focusing on risk mitigation when a theft is detected. However, large number of enterprises and CISOs are struggling with data. they are trying to find right data at right time at right place, so that they can do a pattern detection, and hence they can sort of identify where the potential threat is before they start risk mitigation activity. In general, the feedback is that 70 to 80% of the time is going in data preparation and data related challenges, and very little left towards innovation that are important for business and enterprises. So today, let's look at some background. Today, if you look at why we have these data challenges, because of the digital transformations, we have initiatives that are around cloud, social media, big data, IoT, mobility, etc. And all of these initiatives have generated many different data sources from where we are getting tons of volumes of, or terabytes to petabytes of data. And each of these sources are generating the data that's in different form. Managing this huge amount of data, getting it together, and then analyzing it itself is a problem that's known as data problem. That's also known as big data problem. Unless we fix it, unless we address this, we will continue to be struggle with data operations, and we'll have very little time left for innovations, for security, risk mitigation, and all of that. So top priorities for most of the organizations remains to ensure that the moment theft is identified, the risk is mitigated. But apart from that, their focus is also on early theft discovery, pattern discovery, and more important than that is having a right data at right time to ensure that we stay focused on security analysis and innovations. Back to you.
Yeah, great. I am audible?
Yes.
Yeah, great insights, and really appreciated the way how things are taken it up. Now we can see from the industry side, and Prasanna, you can express as much as towards the innovation disruption using the inbuilt security, and as part of the BFSI, which are all the areas we can still get matured, and which are all the areas which is open for us. Yes, Mr. Prasanna, you can start.
Yeah, so thank you, Suresh, and good to be on the panel along with you and our friends Sudhin and Sanjay and everybody. And thank you, organizers, for inviting me for this panel discussion. So coming back, I think security is a very, very important aspect of digital transformation. Sometimes or at times, what happens, like out of anxiety or out of enthusiasm, we deliver digital products for our customers, and sometimes we see that the security part is still not taken care. But I think banks sitting in a glass surface now has learned over a period of time. Security is very important. Without following security guidelines or without following the security practices, we don't make any of those products available for the customers. Quite a lot of things are happening on the various areas, like within network security, outside of network security, and so on. And RBI also provoking this thought process with the various best practices, introduction of various best practices. Recently, RBI has introduced latest guideline for ATMs and mobile and other digital channels in February 2021. And as a team, we always keep our toes high and keep on reviewing weekly basis how are we on a closure of these guidelines, and as well as various other trends. On yearly, we keep on doing a lot of audits, ISMS or PCI DSS or ISO, and those audits keep a track of how, as a process, we are strengthening our security practices. So it is not only internal security of an app or enterprise, but there are other security aspects. How are we dealing with our partners? Do we have a right set of insurance or agreement, or with the partners? Some fraud happens, like who will be held responsible? Where is your data stored? So apart from your aesthetic aspects of technology, of application and enterprise think there are other aspects we need to take care of this. Coming back to innovation and the customer expectation, customer always is not so happy to put so many passwords and OTPs, right? If you talk about internet banking, he will put his login password first of all, then followed by he will put his transaction password. Then later on, we will ask him to put OTP also, right? So I think much more better guidelines are coming how to make this security experience invisible, either with a biometric or either with a facial or either with behavioral biometric. So those kind of innovations are coming in our life, so that security layer becomes thinner, and the customer should not bother about how many password he should remember at a time. In the backend, right, to cater. We used to use fraud risk management tools, right? FRM tools, which is one of the mandated by RBI for every bank to be utilized for all the channels, see it UPI or internet banking, mobile, ATMs, and so on. What we are doing, like we are adding one more layer in the FRM to create a customer 360-degree profile. To understand, is it a Prasanna or a Sudhin who is doing transaction against one custody, and that profile really helps to give a second level of authentication, right? So we call it as adaptive authentication, and we have designed defined those, either could be password based or OTP or IVR based, or we are bringing some kind of additional layers of adaptive authentication. So depends upon the type of customer, say it's a retail or corporate, and based upon their convenience. So I think these kind of innovations are certainly coming as far as the customer experiences are concerned, Suresh. And in the backend, apart from SOC, which is becoming a traditional security practice for having SOC and having any of those VAPTs, which we occasionally do, right? But on the so I think 24/7, how do we safeguard, right? Some kind of a deception technologies, or how do we create a zero trust kind of a mechanism? Although it's like a dream come true to have those kind of ecosystems, but in a combination of how our people are aware of not to click on some email which is coming from unidentified source, or not to put your USB or without whitelisting inside your network, or safeguarding our customers with these traditional as well as innovative mechanisms of authentication. So in a combination, that's how we can safeguard overall ecosystem in the things. Another aspect to look at is like how do we patch your softwares, right? Windows or databases, right? At times it has to be a dedicated practice, and the RBI also, or auditor also, or regulator also says they keep on seeing that whether your OSs of all the servers are patched or not, or your database servers are patched or not, whether these antivirus servers, at times people go and disable it out of some issue is coming because of it is blocking some redirectional URL, something like that. So on the fly, we should have a monitoring mechanism at a bank level, which will say the health system of every server, whether everything is patched, or whether are there any exceptions. So I think banks are now relying on some monitoring tools. Okay, so monitoring tools, as well as they are injecting these monitoring tools in a form of a SDK or in form of scripts in every application, so that as a whole, as a dashboard, we can see how many are green or how many are amber or red. So I think these kind of things are coming in our way to safeguard ourselves. I think in a nutshell, there are other emerging technologies Sudhin may touch upon, like blockchain or AI or something, how they are going to come in our life and remove those additional layers of authentications, so that we have a seamless journey for customer experience, or how blockchain can be utilized, like whenever packet coming inside your network. So there has to be some additional question asked by this layer. Are you really from authentic mechanism, right? Then only allow that packet, so that we can avoid issues like WannaCry or some kind of ransomware. So those can be avoided by adding these additional layers. This is what we can see. And network can learn based upon, or injecting AI can learn immediately and give back some notification. Some system is already having some malware, please take care of that. So some kind of a hashing mechanism of hashing of a server, now hashing is changed in the next day. So why it has changed? Either because of some patch or because of extra malware. So those kind of things can be really taken care with the help of these emerging technologies like blockchain or AI. I think future will be quite interesting. Okay, once IoT will be in our life. Okay, so or 5G will become a normal technology in 5-6 years. So I think what we are offering today as a technology service provider, we'll have some other technologies from our technology service providers. So it's an interesting journey to have a one technology or to safeguard another one technology. We always bring some other technology. So I think we need to see as a holistic, as a community, where we are moving, right? How we can really streamline and make this security layer thinner and thinner, and how do we really safeguard our systems, people, and the work experiences. I think technology will be really helpful, like emerging technologies will be quite helpful. There are a lot of communities who are participating in this whole stuff. So these are my initial remarks, Suresh. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great insights. And again, that's what it starts. It's not just an innovation. It's not just a technology. It's beyond like know how things comes
Yeah.
together and how things are making more in terms of reaching the customer satisfaction. At the end of the day, how customer is getting benefited and how things are seen more on that. No, that's a great insight. And now I would move to Mr. Sudhin, asking about like how the IT innovation, especially the way Mr. Prasanna suggested, and since you participate more in terms of advising to banks and trying to create as much as secure solutions, your views on that and your highlights and what are your suggestions for us to talk more about cybersecurity?
Yeah, thanks, Suresh. And just to continue on what Prasanna Lohar mentioned, in 2017, as head of innovation at State Bank of India, we benchmarked our core banking systems at approximately 25,000 transactions per second and approximately 1.5 billion transactions in a day to cover 490 million plus customers and 690 million plus accounts. This is the most advanced, scalable, complex core banking system in the world, made in India by Indians, by Indian technologists.
Great.
So this is the size of scale that we are dealing with. And every day we can see that even with COVID, with the lockdowns, with so many disruptions, and living in this digital, contactless, seamless world, all the banking transactions, whether it's SBI, whether it's DCB, whether it's ICICI Bank, or whether it's Bank of Baroda, all these transactions work. So these are mission critical transactions. Extremely critical, have these mission critical transactions fail. On the other side, we have the fraud in the entire system. And this is in the public domain. The amount of fraud, that is the money lost by banks and its customers, is a whopping $20 billion. My view, not the bank's view, is that this money, $20 billion, if saved, can be given to the people who actually need the money, right? So these kinds of massive systems and massive ecosystems require weapons of mass innovation. We require adaptive security. We require autonomic networks in the form of 5G. We require AI. We require machine learning. We require zero trust architecture. We require sandboxes. We require data sandboxes. We require network sandboxes. And all this is coming at the right time. The reason that emerging tech and innovation is very important is because today the entire cybersecurity, as well as the entire GRC that we have, governance, risk, and compliance, which is not only for banks, it's for everybody. But of course, banks are regulated, and it is the regulator which is mandated to push all this. And we ourselves as banks do a lot of stuff in this regard. So, the GRC and cybersecurity today cannot be construed as a defensive or a reactive kind of a posture. When we do the security posture management today, we have to make it an offensive tool to find out what exactly is happening. What is the threat intelligence? Where is the fraud happening? How can transactions be more secured? Can we make it zero trust? So I think by using these weapons of mass innovation, by understanding the data, by analyzing the data, by using newer technologies like blockchain, which is a completely secured, decentralized system of record, which adds a trust as a service to the system of engagement. Look at our system of engagement, it's massive, billions of transactions every day, billions of customers which are using these mission critical systems. We cannot allow them to fail. So I think this merger of emerging tech, sandbox tech, AI, blockchain, together with using these innovations more as a proactive strategy, like an early warning system, rather than just saying that, yes, we have to report out we have to make these GRC reports every month or every week or every day, and then somebody reads about it. We cannot do that. We have to now study all this data and work on it instantly so that we can provide a seamless service, a service having a larger trust ratio to billions of customers and citizens who actually require these kind of world-class services without the risk of fraud or without the fear of them losing any money. So I think we are at a very good time where really technology is driving, not only from a defensive point of view. GRC has always been considered, audit has always been considered something defensive. We have an audit department, we have a CISO department, we have a GRC department, we have a chief risk officer. So just keep the departments happy and give whatever reports they want. But now we are studying all those reports and making our systems much safer, much more secured, and making sure that no breaches and hacks, and even if they happen, we can minimize the impact and coverage, and making sure that we are using cybersecurity in the right way to the benefit of our billions of customers.
Great, great. As how we can bring it out part of it, and I would recommend maximum from Mr. Sudhin to find out the volumes how we handle, and the things which we try to pick it up. It's enormous. So before getting into Rahul Sheshatri, I would want Mr. Ripu Bajwa to get a feel how now the end user side was given. Now we would look forward more from the product and the kind of expectation set part of it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Suresh, and very good afternoon, all the esteemed panelists. Pleasure to be with you. I think you heard, and cannot agree more, the fact that with more innovation today, organizations want to really provide a kind of environment which is without fear innovate, without compromise innovate, so that you are bringing to light also the services that are important today, making sure that people are able to transact with the volumes of data that is happening, and in the various operating environments that the data is moving, from endpoints to distributed core data centers to even cloud and multi-cloud. Seamless security is paramount, because that gives the confidence to organizations that they are in a position to take care of their own data as well as the customer data. We have seen and heard that integration and between departments, people are coming together. It is no longer the priority only of the IIT department, which is to take care of the security, of the security team to take care of that. It is pervasive, it is end user driven, and it has to be made aware to every person, especially in the work from anywhere environment going forward as well. Seamless security, as data gets generated, moved from various operating environments, people use it, and the fact that various frameworks are now coming in place too, in terms of implementation within the organization as well as within countries today. Various verticals which are impacted today by external threats, they are seeing and they are realizing that they need to up the game as far as the threat actors are concerned. Every day we are hearing about cyber attacks. So, and sensitive industries like financial world, they are coming together and coming out with certain recommendations to themselves, to either the regulatory bodies, or they themselves are interacting and seeing what best practices they can implement. Under the frameworks, we all know about various frameworks being in place. But what is very different, which we have seen in the last 6 months to 1 year, is the importance of being able to detect early, bring down the dwell time, making sure that in case of any incident, what are your recovery SLAs? Have you tested your recovery? Are you able to come out of it strong without paying any ransom, without getting your name affected, without getting your compromise? What technologies are you putting in place so that you are one up against these attackers? And a lot of organizations are investing heavily in this area because it's got to do more than disaster recovery. It is cyber threat, which is more pervasive, more global in nature, more impactful, requires a clean recovery, requires certain SLAs so that the business continues. It's all about business existence in some cases. And the recent attacks have really shown us that. They have literally crippled the organizations and the brand equity itself. What are we talking today is different is most of the organizations have spent a lot of money on security solutions, on ensuring the production systems are secure. And they're doing enough backups also, and we're testing the backups. But what we are seeing is these attackers attack the backup environment, because from there they really come to know which is the sensitive applications which are more prone to the business sensitivity and therefore more ransom. So they go through that environment, they take down your first line or second line of defense. And therefore, it is very important to even secure your backups through a cyber vault, which is an off-network vault created. And these are recommendations in the financial world today. People are creating cyber vaults because then you can keep your most sensitive data. And as I heard esteemed panelists talk about, that you should be able to be not just reactive. You have to be ahead of the game. You have to know what is coming in. And there are a lot of tools, technologies in the vault that you can run. You can analyze the data. You have your old copies. You can lock them. And you keep looking for these anomalies which are hitting you, these threat vectors which are coming in your organization, and proactively going and applying those patches, applying those necessary restoration features in your databases or the file systems, because those are the vulnerable points. And having said that, organizations who have got a cyber resilience strategy, they are looking at how do we really implement solutions to match that strategy. It's no longer at the CISO level or the CIO level, it's at the board level. And all organizations, we've seen various numbers being talked about, 60%, and more organizations are not too confident about recoveries. In case of an attack, how confident they are that they will be back in time, they can sign up to a certain SLA. And that is where a lot of focus is happening today. People are getting more resilient, business resiliency is being talked about. And what is so important is your sensitive data, so that you are not compromised. And what it leads to is, if you are having that piece taken care of, you can go and freely innovate. You can go and deploy new applications, test new services in time, go out to your customers fearlessly and take care of their data, which is what ultimately will give you the business. So I really feel, and this is where we are seeing a lot of financial organizations spending money in terms of not just on security solutions, but testing recoveries, making sure that they are resilient for future. Thank you.
Great insights, Mr. Ripupajo. As usual, you didn't mention like a product vendor, you mentioned like a partner, how things to have be taken care, and insights, which is very much required, so that it's not just a tool, it's more of how to avoid the downtimes and how to come up with the proactive in terms of using the security part. It's great. I'll come back to you on enterprises, average, medium to you in the next part. In the meanwhile, I'll get it to Mr. Rahul Sheshatri from Web Engage, where how in your organization or how you are suggesting us like not to be passionate on cybersecurity, and how you feel security kind of terms is utilized, used part of the BFSI and other sectors part of it.
Yeah. So from a very vendor perspective, BFSI has always been a lockdown industry because of the amount of security it needs. But one of the cost of innovation, right? So we are undergoing this whole digital transformation now, and the basics of innovation is you can no longer do everything in house, right? So that's where it all comes in. So even when we talk about our operating systems, we rely on Linux or Windows or any of those vendors, and now everything has come on the cloud. So from a WebEngage perspective, it's a marketing automation suite. Marketing is such a big portion of today's, attention economy. But the moment you add, external stacks like ours or anyone else for that matter, there is data now flowing, which is not under your control, not under the bank's control. And as it was even suggested previously, the visibility that any single entity has on the flow of data is reduced severely because none of it is now in your control. And from our perspective, the very first thing that everyone needs to do and understand is the standardizations that we have. They are not the ultimate defense, but even the things like we underwent ISO certification, for example. And although it seems as if it's a technological solution to the problem, it's actually not. It's more of a people problem that we have today. The awareness not being there, or the fact that even if you have the right technology, if you don't have the right people to implement it, use it, and respond to disasters, then it's a problem. And even data being used for innocuous purposes like marketing, right? It still has PIIs with us. And the moment you expose PII anywhere, the chance of a breach becomes very high because people can use all this information. It's not just us, but even people posting things on Facebook. There used to be stories in the early days of social media where people used to post a picture of their checkbooks, right? And then someone figured out how to misuse that data. So from an entire security perspective, I think in this whole startup-led era that India is going into, startups need to really amp up on the security front. And where I'm seeing a lot of innovation that needs to happen is the baseline is still not present today. So when a new company comes in the market, wants to build a wonderful product from an innovation perspective, there is still not an established security baseline. It always gets added as an afterthought. And the moment you deal with customers who actually have very valuable data, which BFSI being one of the biggest sectors there, you start retrofitting all of these things in. And sometimes it doesn't just work that way, right? You can't just retrofit security because security getting retrofitted also changes the whole experience of the product. As we've said, right, people don't like, as mentioned previously here, people don't like entering passwords 10 times. They don't like entering OTPs 10 times. But the fact is, it still happens, right? And unless it has happened to you, people don't generally realize the implications of those security breaches. For example, in my own case, I had a fraud transaction happen on my credit card. And generally in India, it's fine, right? Because you asked for that, you get asked for the OTP or some grid password. But what if you have international transaction enabled, which bypasses RBI's, second factor authentication? Still, some country like Argentina can, charge you for something, and it's usually small transaction that you don't even notice in your statements because no one views statements anymore. They just look at the ballpark amount and they're like, okay, this looks like how much I would have spent. And once your card is marked as something that can be exploited and it's sold on the black market, and then it will hit you when you don't expect it. So the core point here being that the security responsibility cannot just be confined to the BFSI sector today. It has to expand to every other technological company who's not even directly doing anything on BFSI, because we are also kind of trying to create a pattern of experience that people are used to. So what happens is, if I can log in very easily into Facebook or Instagram, I expect my bank to work the same way, but it won't happen, right? Because people generally think my Facebook account getting hacked is not a big deal. But even then it can happen, right? The moment you become high profile and it happens, and then it hurts you a lot. If you are at a high post in a company and your Twitter account gets hacked and people send messages that they should not be, it's not just you but your whole company's reputation coming down. And we really have to make sure that while we focus on innovation everywhere, we don't lose sight of security. It's not that it's just the bank's job to do, or it's just the critical services job to do, but it's everyone's, every innovator's job to make sure that we are secure by design. So yeah, I think I'm short on time, but
Yeah, it's a great insights. And Rahul Seshadri, you mentioned, you touched the point where how in India, especially, it's not just innovation, security is must on that. But anyway, I'll come back to you in the second round to find out what is the real reason except BFSI nobody is following. Again, I'm not talking about sectors, that you keep it, I'll come back to you on that.
Sure.
And I'm moving to Mr. Sanjay Agarwal. What are the typical challenges for CISOs, especially in the cyber security, when they keep it as an unstoppable journey?
Thank you. I'll just pick up the point that Rahul mentioned, that the security responsibility is no longer confined to banks or BFSI industry. And that's true. When we look at today's transformation that's happening in the market and the industry, we are also talking about embedded finance, where financial services are getting integrated with non-financial services, predominantly in retail segment with different digital platforms. And that's where the responsibilities are being shared across multiple entities. As a result of these initiatives, including embedded finance, huge amount of data is getting generated. And as earlier experts mentioned, I think biggest challenge is to discover the threats early in a timely fashion. And for that, we have to detect, or we have to find a particular pattern from the huge amount of data that are getting generated from systems, from network logs, from applications, clickstream data, events, alarm, etc. And then we have to do a lot of data preparation work. That's data gathering, transformation, aggregations before data is ready for meaningful analysis. Some of the CISOs have mentioned that all of these put together, it's a loss of weeks or months of time at times. And that's where a stronger data foundation is required. Some of the challenges, if you look at, are number one, do we have a framework in place similar to what application industry has, known as DevOps? And in data industry, it is known as data ops. Can it bridge the gap between data challenges and what security experts are looking for to speed up the innovation and to speed up the risk mitigation initiative? And on top of that, of course, there are initiatives that are required to cleanse the data, to blend the data, because unless you have a 360-degree view of all events across the enterprise, you won't be able to do a pattern detection and threat detection. For that, data blending on demand, and those kind of challenges are there, and those kind of initiatives are required, so that the ratio of 80-20, which is 80% towards data preparation, 20% towards innovation, can be flipped to make it 80% towards innovation and 20% towards data preparation. And that's something that's the challenge, and that's something that most CISOs are working towards. Back to you.
Yeah. Great insights. Again, you made it very crisp, so that in the interest of time, how we are trying to make it, and CISOs to take the ownership, like how try to build it out. I'm getting moving to Mr. Sudhin, where how cyber security or even IT security is very important to enterprise, let it be average or a big, large size, or even a startup. What's your take on what's your views? And you heard Rahul Seshadri telling, also saying, like India especially, we are not matured enough for security when it comes to innovations. Your light on that quickly.
Yeah, I think we still have a lot of work to be done, but I think it's only now that the fact that the cost of security, the damage to the brand, the organization reputation, the damage to customers, and it's now that it's being taken up extremely seriously. The problem is that we have been in the urge to develop applications quickly because of digital transformation and other such programs. A lot of the development teams along the way forgot basic concepts like how to adopt the Java authentication and authorization services. So as a result, a lot of the applications that have been built in the past could be a potential potential threat, and could be a potential input for hackers to get in, right? So I think a lot of work needs to be done. I think there are when we build all these applications, I think the security aspect has to be considered much more seriously. And this entire world of DevOps, AI ops, SecOps has to completely merge together. Only then will you be able to adopt this security across the enterprise, right? Otherwise, you will have certain departments, certain applications saying that, we don't need security, or we don't need this kind of security. And that could be a fact. I mean, because, look at the size of the banks, right? I mean, there's also cost of security, right? So, I mean, if you have to implement, cost of security, for example, there are about 500 million Jan Dhan accounts, right? Financial, inclusion accounts. And most of the accounts have got either zero bank, rupees bank balances, or maybe 10,000 rupee bank balances. So what kind of, costs are you looking at, right? So if I think this entire merger can take place between the DevOps, SecOps, and AI ops, and as we improve upon the innovation factor, the cost of putting in these newer technologies does reduce the overall cost of security. And in fact, I have seen that it's a misconception to think that when we go digital and do innovation, that we leave security aspects aside. I have seen that going digital and doing the transformation has in fact today improved our overall coverage of GRC, as well as improve the entire cybersecurity life cycle across the entire application ecosystem.
Great.
So it will take some time. We are doing our best. Yes, even the as even the hacker technology, if I can put it that way, is also improving. They are also trying to get ahead of the curve. So, but I think we have come to a point where this cost of poor security is now become a fundamental issue, and a lot of the organizations internally, especially large organizations, have realized themselves. As for startups, I think it's always a challenge. It's better for them to align to what the bank requires. Like, for example, if it's a payment transaction, they should first only initially align to, the PCI DSS or PSD2, all these norms, so that when you come to a bank and tell them that we want to collaborate, or take a solution, or we want to partner with you, then it becomes much easier for us to validate that technology, because it's complying with those standards. So I think if these standards can be got on early on during the design and architecture phase of the projects, when projects are spawned off, there might be a certain extra cost to it, because obviously it involves a lot of specialized skills. That's one other challenge. Banks have the resources, so they can afford it, but smaller companies, small organizations, MSMEs, fintech startups, small organizations may not have that specialization. But now, with the advent of cloud, with the advent of OpenStack security tools, and they're very good OpenStack open source security tools, and with the advent of cloud, as what Bipu was what Ripu was suggesting, I think that gives another onus on the application development teams to get this security embeddedness early on. And with the cloud, it becomes much cheaper. Also, the cost of security is typically much cheaper, because you're just paying for a as a subscription.
Yeah. So it's a great insights we can get from you. Now you've even hammered it by saying like it's like available now, part of the cloud solutions, and it's not just a cost now. It's more of an a services. It's required and it's inbuilt. We have to make it. I'll come back to you, because again, in the interest of time, we have to go around with all. To Mr. Ripu Bajwa, like how the typical global best practices which can help enterprises and which give guidance, like now, because now we are blindly relying on the partners and cloud kind of technology. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. We are at the midst of a lot of protecting data for the organizations, making sure that they are following the GRC norms and innovating and accelerating the digital transformation objectives. As platform providers, we believe, and we are offering intrinsic security as part of our team across all the infrastructure elements that you talked about, software driven down to servers, and making sure that the storage and the backup environment is all secure, whether you're having it on-prem, off-prem, in a hybrid manner. As Sudhin mentioned, cloud is the new solution today for a lot of backup workloads, for archival workloads. People want to look at it. People are looking at endpoints getting protected, SaaS applications getting protected, and agree with cost to serve, which is very important per per user or per transaction, that is dramatically coming down, which is because of the efficiencies, the automation, and the ease of use, which is being brought in by technology. And I'm just talking one pillar, which is under the cybersecurity, which is people, process, and overall, making sure that the technology pieces are well understood. We are not just dependent on technology; it is people and processes together. However, as we look at cybersecurity and the overall, the theme of making sure that it is seamless across platforms, the onus definitely is as a strong partner to your organization, and also working closely with all the business users who are adopting all these new models, working from anywhere, making sure any device. The awareness levels are also increased. People are doing more of DR drills or cyber drills, testing themselves against any kind of threat or event. That gives you the confidence that how mature are you on a particular curve. And you will be able to see that it's an evolution. You will find that there are always steps to do. No organization in the world can say that, look, I'm fully secure. They are on a continuum. And that's why the technology piece, the processes and the people around it will together make this happen, not just one pillar. That's my take.
Great. Again, you well consolidated by saying people, process, technology. Again, secured. It's not just people. It's again with process. Again, with the kind of the environment. It all matters on that. Thanks for your input. I'll get into the final question to Mr. Sanjay Agarwal. Where what are the solutions available and to create a strong data foundation and accelerate security analytics? Because since you are CISO here, like you'll be the right person to react on that.
So yeah, in the interest of time, short answer, as mentioned earlier, I think a strong data foundation is critical for shifting focus from data operations to data security innovations. And for that, initiatives like data ops that I mentioned earlier are extremely critical. And some of the technology initiatives that are there today, and most of the banks are today taking it, data lakes are being created, and certain technologies like object storage is coming into the picture that is empowering data lake to be more efficient, more manageable, and more compliance-centric architecture is being developed around that. Another shift is happening is that, how do we get the data on board in enterprise in data lake? There are different challenges, there are different data sources, and there are technologies and solutions that can ensure faster onboarding of data sets, from different sources to data lakes. Another interesting dimension to it is, which is coming in from shifting the focus from operations to innovation, is can we empower security experts to pick up the data when they want, how they want, rather than being dependent on data experts within the organization, which dominantly brings in a lot of delays. So that's another initiative wherein data on demand is being available, blending of the data being available on demand, orchestration of that being available on the demand, and all of these technologies being put together is able to help create a strong data foundation and allows enterprises to shift focus from data preparation, which traditionally takes 80% of the time, to 20 to the data innovations that will start taking 80% of the time.
It's again great insights, and you have mentioned very clearly, like it's not just an organization, it's more to do with that how we can have a secured enterprise, which gives more in terms of strong data foundation and to accelerate security. That's very, very important, and it's nicely put on that. And now I'm moving to Mr. Rahul Sheshatri. Now your side views for non-BFSI and how secured are a crisp answer.
Yeah, crisp answer is to, so I'll just briefly say why it is not present, because outside of BFSI, there is a lot of tendency to build things in-house rather than, acquiring existing solutions. That is because people are learning, especially startups, people are excited and they want to build things on their own. The second consideration is that, since security breaches are generally reported when it happens to banks and other entities, we generally have a feeling that it cannot happen to us because it has never happened to us. The same reason why, we get a feeling that our desktop can't get infected with viruses because it will never happen to us. It can happen to my friend or someone else, but can never happen to us. So those are the two primary reasons, like why the awareness is kind of low on the actions to be taken. But as it was previously mentioned, smaller companies or even startups don't appreciate the amount of cost, not just in terms of technology and equipment, which is coming down, but even in terms of human resource investment that it takes. Because you don't have a shortcut to security knowledge, right? Even if your company has all the security tools in place, but it does not mean you can have a person who does not have the right security training who can manage them. You still need someone who understands the ins and outs and just relies on technology as a means of automation, not as a means of delegating knowledge to the system. So those are some of the reasons why it is still present in startups, and it will help if a lot of information flows from the enterprises back to startups in terms of technologies, processes, and it all happens through standards like ISO, SOC 2. But even the adoption there is quite less. So awareness would be, I would say, the right first approach. Yeah.
So it's a great. Again, you also understood, like, no, even part of the engineering, like, no, how things generally matters a lot. It's not just a technology. It's again a combination of so many subjectives, and especially in Indian kind of huge volumes, like Mr. Sudhin said, like, no, it requires more understanding about the product solutions. Again, like how Mr. Ripu Bharadwaj said, like, no, it's more to do with people, process, technology, not just blaming to one set of people or one set of processes. It's multiplied to that. So I'm putting the last tag question to all, so everybody can give their views to on this area, where to say cyber security is very, very highly important for BFSI sector. And can we say that security measures to prevent the data against cyber attacks, we are present or we are capable 50%, 80% or 100%? I would want everybody's views on that. So I will start with Sudhin. Sudhin is the right person.
I would say we are at 80%, but that 80% doesn't mean that it is that 20% gap is can become very critical and can really disrupt in because of the volumes, because the sheer size of volumes. I think it can create a lot of disruption. So I think it's right now 80%, and we would ideally like it to be at least in the 90 mid 90% and probably even more than that.
Yeah, it's a great. And Mr. Sanjay Agrawal, your views, because it's just to your organization, not necessarily for the country.
Yeah, it varies, at different times and different organizations as well. So my answer would be it is never 100%, and it will never be 100%, because technologies are visible equally to the enterprises and the hackers. So they are advancing, enterprises are advancing, and that challenge will continue to be there. That tug of war will continue to be there, and sometimes hackers would dominate and some major frauds will happen. Sometimes enterprises will take some initiatives and will be able to protect. So it will not be 100%, but it's approaching towards 100%, the kind of initiatives that are being taken and the way we have heard the experts in the panel. It's going to be there very soon, I guess.
Yeah. You mentioned, like, no, it's more of an art of war. It's not so easy, and it's a continuous fight. Like, no, it's a win-win, and we should continuously be prepared to handle such situations. Mr. Ripu Bajwa, from your side, as a partner, what you would want to tell to the other people, other side?
Surely, it is one area where it will be a journey, and continuously being ahead of the curve, making sure that your risk is least rather, because you obviously have to innovate and be also taking certain steps to go out and try out and go after the business and go for the rewards. So some amount of risk, you have to have the appetite to take that risk. But the idea is that, can you bounce back to business? How much risk can you take? Can you quantify that and be prepared to bounce back? You have now with you a lot more than what you didn't have, say, 2 years back or a year back. You can look at minimizing that impact. And of course, from a percentage point of view, I will agree that it can never be 100%. It will be a continuous journey, but you can minimize the risk. You can bounce back.
Great insights. Again, Rahul Sheshatri, your views.
Yeah, so the percentage where I think everyone else covered, but what I would like to point out is cybersecurity is one area where even to maintain the percentage that you have, it takes a lot of effort. So it's not just about increasing it, it's just about being where you are. Like, it's like inflation. Right? If you keep the money under your pillow, it'll keep going down in value, and you won't even realize it. So yeah, that's my only point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, great. The insights I expected part of it is what being part of the partners. Even Mr. Ripu can suggest for governments how much still they can improvise upon, because these are the areas where we can go back to them to say, see, because the organizations like Sudhin told, or Mr. Sanjay Agrawal talked about the kind of organizations where they well protected. But when it comes to government, the kind of volumes we handle, partners has to only suggest. We have to highlight to them, go back to them.
Yeah.
That's the expectation, set part of it. And thanks for all your inputs. And it's a great session in terms of sharing. Cybersecurity is not just limited to IT industries. It's very crucial for all businesses, including profit and not-profit organizations. But when it comes to specifically BFSI, it holds a critical value because of the stake, and the stakeholders would participate part of it. And banks and other financial institutions deal in millions of transactions daily basis and trying to create as much as on the protection, especially the stakeholders should get more trust, and the kind of emotions play a part of the business should get gathered part of the secured environment and to build trust. So it's very interesting where the kind of diversified panelists put most of the information in terms of what is the primary target of cyber attacks and how we require cybersecurity essentials for banks, especially for financial institutions, to upfront for existing security parameters and the kind of data sets which we try to put covering part of the cybersecurity and BFSI through the virtual conclave. Thanks for your all valuable time. It's pleasure meeting you all, talking to us, and really it's very immense pleasure again hearing from you all during tough times like COVID times, but still we talk about more prevention, protection in terms of how we can make security as a global aspect. Here I would want to end with saying it's more to do with completeness and finished. So if you select a right partner, you are fully completed. If you select a wrong partner, you are finished. Even though you select a right partner, but you confuse him with what are things on that, you are completely finished. So let us try to have something else similar for a right partner, for a secured solutions, and trying to ensure the completeness. And wish you all and stay safe, and thanks for your all valuable time.
Thank you very much, Suresh.
Thank
It was a pleasure hearing you too.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much to all our panelists. So before closing the third session, I will take the honor to give the felicitation to our prominent panelists and the moderator of this session for sharing their valuable inputs and expertise. Now, I would like to announce the awards for the third session. Mr. Ripu Bajwa, Director and General Manager, Data Protection Solutions, Dell Technologies India. Sanjay Agarwal, Technology Head, Hitachi Vantara, India. Prasanna Lahore, Chief Innovation Officer, DCB Bank. Sudeep Barokar, Global IT and Innovation Advisor to banks. Rahul Seshadri, Director of Engineering, WebEngage. Dr. Suresh A. Shan, Head Innovation and Future Technology, BITS Mahindra and Mahindra Financial Services Limited. Now, I would like to show gratitude for accepting our invitation, and it's a privileged moment for the Times Tech Print Media to have you on board. Thank you so much to all of you, and it was my honor to host this event. Now, we are at the end of this webinar, and we will be proceeding towards a vote of thanks.